Hello, everyone. And hello, good afternoon, rather, good morning, everyone around the world and here in India and here on Zoom Meet. So, everyone who is watching on YouTube, good morning to everyone there also. So, I would like to introduce you to our Mr. Harmeet Chawla, who is very well known in real estate arena, and he is working on new project also. So he will be talking about real estate and profit and loss and many other things that he has in mind to share with us, because normally people don't share about nuances, niches of real estate. They keep it to their heart and they mint money about that. So he will be sharing and opening the secrets of what goes on in real estate arena. So over to Mr. Harmeet Chawla.
Good morning, ma'am. Thank you for having me over again, and a warm welcome to everyone who's on the platform. And as I always say, I'm going to make it interesting. Keep my discussion and topic specific to people, and my communication is going to be more is going to be generic to the point where people can understand what I'm trying to convey to them. And uh, any questions or queries that people might have at the end of the session, I'll be more than happy to answer any of them. So, should we begin, ma'am?
Yes, please.
Okay. So, as we've taken up the topic today, which says real estate, human development versus profit. So, the reason when I wanted to take up this topic was that we all get into real estate with the idea of not only owning a house or an office or a shop, but the end result is we all want to make money. We want to make profits out of it, be it at the end of the person who is making the development, the client, or the intermediary who is bringing both the concerned people on the platform to transact real estate. Now, what happens is if we don't go too much back, let's say maybe the last 25 years, there have been ups and downs in the real estate market, but by and large, people have really profited very well from real estate. And it'll be very safe for me to say that a lot of the wealth accumulation that people have done in their life has predominantly been the fact that people have saved up money or leveraged the credit system and put a lot of money into the real estate. And there has been a lot of sale and purchase of real estate, which allowed a multiplicity of or the multiplier effect on money to take place, and people made a lot of money and became wealthy because of a lot of investment into real estate. And we've seen, specifically in our country, once that kind of trajectory takes place, people become very bullish and they become very buoyant about the real estate market, and they start putting a lot of money, a lot of development starts happening. Now, which is not bad, which is what is required, and we need real estate, we need quality development. But what has happened over the last many years in India, because of the real estate development, the fundamentals of the fact that human development, and when I say human development, and why I say human development is that real estate intrinsically allows you or gives you a very clear input or a reflection into the kind of human development around. It's just not the houses. We talk about facilities. We talk about infrastructure. Point in case is in the last so many years that we see in our cities. We talk about many forums. We stopped seeing a lot of birds in the city. We don't see sparrows. We don't even see crows, as a matter of fact, because we've gone ahead and we've taken every inch of land, which was also a coexistence of not only humans, but it also was a coexistence with nature. So we've encroached upon that area and we've taken that. Now, it was a beautiful thing 30, 40 years back when you would get up in the morning, look at the sunrise, but then you would see a lot of birds around your house. And that's the first thing you would do in the morning was feel quite elated by looking at those things which we have stopped seeing in our ecosystem now. Now, that is one factor which I link to human development, which I talk about human happiness. It's about where you're living, your quality of lifestyle. So while our houses have become brilliant, our architectural designs have become brilliant, our interiors have become brilliant and very scientific, but our ecosystem, which actually allows a far more profound impact on our health, has started to actually deteriorate, which is the natural part. In the whole of as much inch, millimeter, centimeter, acres of land that can come into real estate, we're sacrificing the quality of roads, we're sacrificing the quality of our walkways, we're sacrificing the quality of our parks. Now, all that is happening because there is a profit to be made, because every area, every inch of land is profitable. The government is equally responsible for it. We as citizens are equally responsible for it, because we have become very narrow-minded and focused in terms of the fact that whatever we are buying, how does it tantamount into futuristic profits or in terms of wealth? We're not looking at our own core happiness. We're not looking at our core well-being. And the point in case is, if you pick up the mountain areas today, you look at, what we've been seeing, the visuals on the television over the last 1 month in Himachal, in Uttarakhand, other areas in Telangana, that nature has really come out hard on its fury with the rainwater, with choked drainages, with overflowing nalas. That is nothing but us really going ahead and having absolutely no empathy and any logic to the way we've done our real estate development. While things are all hunky-dory, it's very nice. But fact of the matter is, we can't wish away. We can wish away our problems at this point of time, but they will come around a full circle, and we will have to face them face to face. We'll have to look that problem in the eye, and we won't have a solution when these things come, and then we can only deliberate. So what the point again I'm trying to say is somewhere our well-being in terms of our own ecosystem, our own present and future depends upon our own mindset. So nowhere would I say that we should not make money, or we should not have wealth creation out of real estate, but also the fact that there needs to be a line drawn as to what is the kind of development, what is the kind of focus that we want, what is the kind of housing that we want, what is the kind of infrastructure around that we want. In all these years that I've been in the industry, I haven't seen public participation. It's just that public, a lot of the bureaucracy or the politicians sit down in closed rooms, and the so-called town planners will come in and they end up deciding how our cities and towns and areas are going to look. And that predominantly is driven by the fact that how do I monetize the land? How do we make it profitable? Because the developers who get these lands to develop, and I'm on that part of the development. I'm a developer. So for me also in business, profit is a very, very integral and important part. But in all these years, I've been also very conscious of the fact that I am not willing to make developments which harm the ecosystem. Money is great, money is required for the business, but there is a certain amount of societal what I owe to the society, or what my responsibility to the society is. I have to find that middle ground between profit and society in terms of development. And I can do it only to myself. I just can't go about preaching to people, yes, on forums like this, or otherwise when I go to others, forums when I am a speaker. I do make it a very pertinent point to air my view that, listen, we need to, as a society, as a forum in real estate, be very conscious of our responsibilities to our ecosystem, to our society, It's very easy when all these things happen to go about blaming the government. The government is because of us. The policies are for us. So if we do not take a proactive stand and say, listen, we're not going to allow, or we don't want this kind of a development. We want a development which is far more holistic. We want a development where we get up in the morning while we, yes, want our house prices to go up, but we also want to see our trees. We also want to see our birds chirping around our neighborhood. We don't want an ecosystem. I mean, India is already a very populous country, but it's not as if we do not have land. So, what is also happening is we are filling up our cities and towns more and more because our economic activities are not decentralized. Our economic activities are very centralized to main cities like Mumbai, Delhi, Chennai. So anyone who is looking at movement in his or her life as far as economic prosperity is concerned, they don't have a choice but to move out from their present ecosystem and probably move into greener pastures in these cities, which keeps adding more pressure to the cities and where we're living. Then we see a lot of unauthorized construction. We see rampant encroachment onto the government land, areas which were developed in the 80s, which factored in only one car. Now those houses are 4 to 5 cars, which is the the fact of the ecosystem or fact of our time. So we can't wish it away, but then we need to also find a solution for it. Nobody tends to find. So that's the reason you will see a lot of areas where people will fight for their car parks. Now, this all is happening because we simply can't simply say that, listen, this is all the problem of the government. It's their planning. When they plan, we're as much as a part of it. We vote for these governments. We vote for these systems. But we also do not air our point that this is not the kind of development we want. Today, the kind of infrastructure that we are living in, we do not have an iota of say in terms of the ecosystem around us. All we have is our capability to manage the char diwari that we might have bought or the plot that we might have bought, and what kind of house that we want is all that we can manage to have our control on. Everything in and around, we do not have our understanding. We do not have any say. We do not have any voice in terms of being able to say, this is the kind of development I want. If you again look at our cities, the cities have houses, the cities have malls, the cities have hospitals. So barring that, and I've always said that, while it's the age of internet, it's the digital age, but going back and reading old-fashioned way, the books, which is starting to come back in a big way, these are centers or areas. We don't have libraries, so we don't have community libraries. We don't have, if I pick up Delhi, whatever libraries came in way back are the libraries which are still existent, or maybe some coffee shop has got who's opened a bookstore is the only library where you can have a cup of coffee and drink. But systematic public libraries where it can be a melting point, meeting point, exchange of ideas of people do not exist. So that's as much as a part of human development, and it's real estate. And that also is a real estate which progressively adds to your mindset. It adds to the ecosystem. We do not have cultural centers. We don't have more areas which can aid performing arts. So while we are pushing our kids into performing arts, we are pushing with the idea that, listen, follow your dream. If you feel that you can be a great dancer or you can be a great artisan, follow that. You don't have to be typically an engineer or a doctor. But the fact is, all these things also require a stage, an area where the individual can exhibit his capabilities. So these are all part of cities. So if you go back to cities which were made 2,000 years back, why did you have cultural centers? Why did you have all that you had in terms of development? So I always feel the people who were living 1,500 years back were a little more conscious, more intuitive, and glued to the kind of ecosystem they wanted around them than we are today. So we are all driven purely by wealth creation and profit, which I again say is not bad. But at some point of time, we have to say, listen, somewhere we need to draw that line and say this is not the kind of development we want. Today, the best recreational capability anyone has is going to a mall, and the mall obviously encompasses all the shops, whether it's a theater. But on a weekend, that's the best thing that you have. Either you go to a restaurant or you go to a mall. You don't have too many performing arts. The old ones exist. People do go there. As I said, so there is not much which is being done to create a holistic, development, which eventually aids the development of our human or brings us together. We are in an age of networking. We are in an age of digital growth, but the communications are broken down because our real estate development doesn't empower us to any more physically meet. And I'm still old-fashioned, and I still feel that correlating with another human being on a digital screen is not as empowering or powerful or understanding as it is sitting one-on-one physically, because you are exchanging energies, you're exchanging thought processes. So there are certain nuances that cannot be wished away, even if there is a technological boom. So while the technology is aiding our life, helping us, but there are certain fundamentals that need to be stuck to, because they are the grassroots principles of human development. So we need to stick to those. Now, having said that, I'll also touch upon the fact, while I put this into perspective, I would also like to, kind of say that, when you go about buying houses or you want to invest in real estate, try to be conscious from a larger perspective that, where are you buying your apartment? Obviously you need to do your due diligence in terms of the kind of developer, the kind of project, the kind of infrastructure that he's putting in, the macro infrastructure around the project. All these things are important. But you also need to start looking at what is in and around the 4-kilometer, 5-kilometer radius of that. Now, the reason I say that is if you don't start focusing on that, the idea from a purchase perspective is always going to be very, very, very myopic to the point of the development that you're getting and not the area around. So if you want to open and broaden your horizon about the development, you need to start asking what is around me? Do I have enough parks? Do I have enough recreational facilities? Do I have any playgrounds around me? Do I have even a systematic, something as simple, which is, do I have a mortuary for the area that I'm living in? Or do I, tomorrow something goes wrong and the society has to carry, or you need to take a dead body maybe 25 kilometers from where you're putting up or you're living in. So these are all fundamental points which need to be looked into before you get into any kind of real estate development. And if we start looking at these scenarios, trust me, in the next 10, 15 years, we will have far more brilliant developments which encompass a lot of the human psychology, will encompass that these are areas which allow us to develop, which allows us to grow as human beings. It allows us a certain amount of social interaction. It allows us the capability to learn from our surroundings, not just a 6 crore house or a 7 crore bungalow, and then we are confined to whatever we're doing within the boundaries of that those walls. So this is something that I wanted to talk about. Nupur ma'am, any questions I can take in the middle, or somebody's up or wants any directional?
Yes, you can take. If anybody wants to answer, yeah.
I'm open to questions on this one before, I'd love the session to be a little more dialogue driven than monologue over here. If people have questions, I'll be more than happy to answer them. I
have a question. Rather, I would like to draw your attention to new buildings that are coming up. For example, where we are living in, so it has been well planned. And how it has been well planned, all the infrastructure, that is the structure which has been created, that is created very beautifully. And plus, they have all the amenities that you are saying right now that should be there. For example, the water is there, swimming pool is there, club activity is there, club is there. Then there is a security system also. There is a maintenance staff also. In case you have any problem in house, then you can always go and address to it, and they send the people with the whatever reason, whatever the problem you have. And there is a clinic also. There is a ambulance standing all the time, 24 hours. In case of emergency, that ambulance is always available. So on the whole, nowadays, the people are thinking about the gated society. So nobody can enter without the security check or anything. I've seen many societies, they are following the same norm. But there was one incident recently, I think so or yesterday, there was one incident that happened in Coimbatore, the same type of society we are living in. And that lady got stuck in the lift and the lift was unable to open. And the person died. And there was a lot of hullabaloo and all that. So now the mob has become very mad about it, that there is no security system out there. So what do you have to say on that? That despite having such a good infrastructure, such a good system, which is there in the gated society, but still the person is not able to come out of it, or they are facing some problem of this kind. So nowadays lifts are all closed. Before it was like open one side open, grill type. Now it is all closed. Now things are getting little more, if you add on the technology, it is becoming more complicated instead of becoming more easier. Initially, it seems that it is easier, but later on, when you start living in there, it becomes complicated. For example, I had one incident where my house got caught with fire. Now you have nowhere to go out. Only one door where you can go out. Otherwise, there's no door to go out. So what do you have to say about these tragedies which happens?
So, ma'am, as you rightly pointed out, there are two factors into a real estate development. One is the micro internal development, and then there is the macro development, which is outside your complex. What we've been seeing for all this while is, and especially last 2 months because of the rain, which I was mentioning, was the macro problems which were outside your project. So whether it's the sewage system, the connectivity, or your sewage system back hitting the water, and then that sewage water all coming into your wherever your colony is. Now, when it comes to the point which you pertinently said, it's in today's time, amenities like a pool or an area to play around in a society or a group housing is a given. I mean, it's a no-brainer. So, I mean, the idea that's been sold on these amenities is because, as I write, which I was mentioning, that the moment you get out of your gated community, you don't have parks, you don't have areas where you can walk, or you don't have community pools, you don't have community playgrounds, which we used to have way back in our 70s and 80s. So you're confined to that maybe 10-acre project. So these amenities are now a given. They need to be there. But what is important is, while you are, I'm doing a project, and I was planning one project a long time back, where I was putting in all the technology into the project. But at the same time, I also was planning out an response system to problems that the people living in the project might have. So it's one thing to put in the technology, it's one thing to put in the amenities, but it's also imperative that you understand that technology can go wrong or system failures can happen. So there needs to be also an ecosystem within these projects which says, listen, what at the drawing board, what can go wrong? things that can go wrong is people are swimming or a kid is swimming, somebody could drown. Or there is, you not put enough trees in an area like Chennai when, somebody can have a heat stroke, or in place like Delhi. So if somebody old is walking, he has a heat stroke, do I have a response system, or I just have guards who will pick him up and take him? Do I have some ecosystem within that 10 acres or 12 acres project? Point in case is the lift. So what I have seen in, again, which is pertinent, is that among all the mid housing development and the up end markets, while the ecosystems and the facilities have been put in, the human aspect in terms of your ability to respond to minor or major tragedies still doesn't exist. Because at best, what we've done is we put in, guards who will manage the security and all. In the high-end project, we have concierge services, but those concierge services are more to do with the clubhouse facilities or other factors. But something goes wrong with the lift, like you rightly said. Have you factored in how are you going to get that human out of that lift at the earliest? Well, that doesn't exist, because that also instills a certain amount of cost to the developer, or let's say if the project has been moved up to an RWA. So people in India also are very, very picky and choosy about paying their RWA fees. So, if in Delhi, let's say in a large society, we're just paying 500 rupees. I mean, people can easily pay $1,000. But if you tell them from 500 rupees, it's going to be 600, there is a big hoopla about it. People don't want to even pay 100 rupees a month for their own well-being, which is extremely surprising. Or they pay late fees. So the point that I'm trying to make is, you made a very valid point. I mean, 2 days back in Noida, in one of the projects which I used to, and now I have to say, unfortunately, not fortunately, unfortunately, used to head was Paras. The lift crashed, and there was a 70-year-old lady in that, and she died. And now there could be a faulty construction problem over there, or the maintenance AMCs have not been done very well. Now, all those are one factor, but the fact of the matter is, you also, because you have about 4,000 people living in that society, when you have so many people, the possibility and the probability of something going wrong is also on the higher side. So neither has the RWA, in singularity or in conjunction with the developer, even thought about putting in an ecosystem which is a response capability. For example, one of the very high-end projects which I was ideating, and I'm still in the process of putting that up, I have what I term in that project a disaster management office within my project, right? And the disaster management project the thing I put in is a bunch of people who have the capability to handle and have a response SOP in case of an earthquake, in case of flooding, in case of even the fact that if in the neighborhood, let's say there was riots or anything, how do I securitize and secure the people living within the community? So that is, I would say, again, going back to the planning board and being more empathetic and being more systematically glued into the needs of your customer, and the fact that they are not just to be treated as customers, but need to be treated as your ecosystem, which you're putting in with a certain amount of empathy for their well-being. And I'm saying that as a businessman. Now, that doesn't cost crores of rupees. It just requires a certain amount of capability to be empathetic to that future need and saying, listen, let me put this. And if there is a certain cost to it, there is justifiable way to put it across and inbuilt into your project and justify it to your customers, because at the end of the day, that's not a money that you're really making a lot of money on, but it's a service that you're providing for the well-being. And it might so happen that that kind of a service might come into use once a year. But the fact of the matter is, while the service is available, that capability to even take care of any tragedy that might happen once in 5 years, 6 years, or God forbid, never. But it's worth the effort to put that feature or a service into the product. So that would be my answer to that question.
I would like to also ask you what points we should keep in mind when we are buying a house or apartment or any individual house. I'm living in an apartment, so my mindset is like that. But there are people who have independent house and they are going to buy something or build a house. So what points they should keep in mind while buying a house or independent house?
So, ma'am, again, fundamental question where people, whether it's 2015 or 23, always get it wrong. When you go into a project, so let's say if you're buying an apartment, the first fundamental that you need to look at is you need to look whether the incident of the developer are good. What has been his past background? Even if he's a new developer, what is it that he is putting in front of you in terms of prospective plans? Because we also need to understand there are going to be new people coming into business, and every new person who comes to business is not necessarily bad or incompetent. He's just new. So new people have to be given a chance. But the question is the new person giving you the right product, giving you the right price, giving you the right attitude? Does his legal fundamentals on the land and the paperwork and the ecosystem conform to the legality or the law of the land? So if it does, it's definitely worth the, let's say, risk to invest in that. So first of all is one should not be under the impression just because somebody has been in the business for 25 years, he's good. No, we're all good and bad on that given day in terms of the project and the way we're presenting that project to our prospective customers. So never go with that bias that this is good and this is bad. Always get into the fundamentals of the project, make the effort to get up and understand the project, the financing, the pricing, and do not look at buying the product purely from the point that if I buy it, how much money am I going to make? Because the moment you start looking at from the fundamental of how much money I will make, you are going to overlook very, very basic fundamentals of the project. So first cover your fundamentals very, very carefully, which is the legality. Make sure you visit the office, make sure you meet the senior most people, make sure you have everything in writing. All your communications, even pre the sale, are in writing. Nothing is verbal, because anything in writing today is something which is admissible in court in case of a lawsuit. So mitigate your downfalls by being very, very certain about the way you go about your purchase. Make sure the banks are in line with the project. Make sure the project is linked with RERA. Follow up once you bought into the project. Don't forget your purchase. Make sure to update yourself every 2 months. Make that effort to be going to the site. Make that effort to be visiting the developer's office. Make sure asking them the fundamental question, asking them the difficult question, because that is the right which every customer has to ask the questions. I'm not saying, in my career, I've seen many a time being asked irrelevant questions. So you have to be also asking the right questions, and you have to have the patience with the customer to give him that time and effort to satisfy him. So that is one part. When you go down to buying independent, this thing, it becomes tricky because here it's a transaction between two people. One person already owns the land, you're buying the land, and then you will get into construction, or you are buying a constructed bungalow altogether. So obviously the first thing is, if that is the first time, you need to check whether the individual has taken any loans on it. There are any bank, he's mortgaged that loan. You need to have all those approvals. You need to check all the papers with your lawyers. If the property has moved hands, it's in a way very, you know that, okay, the property was with A, it has come to B, and I am buying from B. So the B guy has already got it registered at one point of time. The registration will happen if the property is pretty kosher. But you also need to be very certain, where does the law or the real estate nuances on that area or that particular plot stand today. So there is no harm. Second, going back and checking that again. As I said, important thing with independent bungalows and all would be, you need to see whether it is not mortgaged to a bank or mortgaged to a third party, which means if you're buying it, before you give a byana, you take an underwriting from the seller. And once you have made the purchase, you still go out into, place a small ad that you're buying this. And these are there's no harm spending $10,000 and taking out a public notice in case you want to be doubly sure. People do avoid it. They do it in case of very large transactions. But if it makes you happy, there is no harm in coming out of the public that I'm buying so-and-so plot. And that's about it. So, get your legal framework absolutely in order before you make those payments. Don't be in a hurry. Don't rush into it. Don't buy a property just because today it is costing you 1 crore. And if you don't buy that property in the next 20 days, it's going to be 1 crore and 20. Most of the people fall into that trap that they feel the prices are going to rise. And they tend to overlook a lot of fundamentals that need to be looked into, and then they suffer a lot. So that would be my answer to that.
Thank you so much.
Pleasure, ma'am. Pleasure, ma'am.
Yeah.
Anyone else that has any questions? I see some very smart and bright people like Sahil. Sahil, do you have any question?
I would like to ask, in your experience...
Hi, good morning, sir.
Sahil, just let Shabnam answer, and then you can come in the next question.
Yeah. So I was just asking, you mentioned so many important aspects of development, right? And which we should consider. So in your experience, which area do you see that, which is really is meeting all of these criteria? So having the community libraries and, having the good environment as well as the living space in terms of quality.
If you talk from the point of view, ma'am, I'll not be probably able to give because see, I'm not aware fully at the micro level what is the kind of development happening, let's say in a Chennai or a Coimbatore or Trivandrum or a Pune. But at a very basal, generic level, I know that I've known this industry for more than 2 decades. That part of the planning has to be done by the government. The private developer only gets allocated a piece of land on which he has to develop the project as per the master plan. So if he has a land which allows him a construction of a housing project, his vision is going to be very tunneled and funneled to only developing that project. So he's not going to start thinking about libraries or ecosystems and all. The part of a holistic development eventually comes down on the doorsteps of the government or the planning body, because they are in charge of the town planning. They are in charge of the ecosystem. What I was referring when I started off this discussion was that the common man is really not part of that, ecosystem. He is not you're not running it through. You're not running that plan into the system and saying there is no mechanism which says, listen, we need to ask the public whether they're okay with this plan. Are there any reservations to this? Do we give that vote or we give that voice to the general public? Because eventually the general public who's going to be living there, it is their well-being. Are they okay with this kind of a development? In last 30 years in NCR, Gurgaon, Delhi, I think approximately thousands of lakes have dried up. Now, these lakes could have been developed as water bodies, as recreational areas for people to go in the evening. These could have also been your, water harvesting, your areas which could have taken the flood water. Now, you systematically dried them, systematically killed them, and then a lot of these lands have eventually been developed into real estate. Now, point in case is, I was reading of, I myself, out of one of the largest companies in India, when I was a national head, I think I launched more than 6,000 crores worth of projects in that area. But I was not aware that a lot of that land was actually, at one point of time, low-lying areas where the rivers used to pass through. Now, when the floods came in Punjab, in those areas were absolutely, water logging is not even, we can't even call it water logging. The entire basements, cars, everything was totally sunk. So you had water which was about 8 feet, 9 feet, 10 feet.
Yeah. So in fact, recently the Chandigarh has the flooding case. Yeah.
I'm talking about Mohali, which is the same area now.
Yeah. And it is one of the best planned cities of India. So what do you say about that?
So I'll butt in over it. Chandigarh still I would say holds the badge of being the best planned city. So Chandigarh, which is the old Chandigarh, didn't see so much of a problem. As much as the peripheral suburbs saw it, which was Kharad, Landra, Banur, areas which are all developed and master planned in the last 20 years. So they did not have the fundamental town planning which the old Chandigarh has. So those areas have been developed on the very, very same cut, copy, paste model of how things would be done in Panchkula or other areas of Haryana or this thing. So you saw the problems more rampant over there rather than proper city of Chandigarh.
Yeah. So, so do you think it's the public who has to bring the town planning thing back into existence, because no one knows exactly what's happening? Because in the recent development plan, I think we are actually, overruling the natural laws. So
ma'am, I am not a town planner myself. I'm not even an architect. I'm not a civil engineer, but I've been in the industry. Nothing stops me from sitting down and ideating and using my intelligence and simply saying what is good for me. And if I am going to seriously ask that question, what is good for me? And I'm just going to park the profitability part aside, and I'm just going to look at my well-being. The logic is, if I'm going to think about my well-being, then I'm thinking about the well-being of my kids, my family, and it by default would mean the well-being of people who are living around me. So all that it requires, it doesn't require so much of technical understanding. It requires for you to be fundamentally attuned to your own common sense, to be a little empathetic to your own self, and ask the right questions. If I'm going to only ask questions about wealth creation and profit, and how many apartments and how many bungalows I can buy so that I look very rich, then I'm going to go on that direction. But if I'm going to start asking what is the kind of place I want to live, what is the kind of development I want, do I want to see more greenery? Do I want to see more trees? Now, point in cases, most of the real estate development today, when you look, they will show you palm trees, they will show you khajur ka ped. And I made this point in one of the forums, and I said, in Gurgaon or Delhi, where, when I was growing up, I didn't see palm trees. It's not a city to have palm trees. Palm trees are not going to be an habitat for sparrows and crows and other birds. So where are those trees? Why are you putting in palms and all these kind of trees which are not meant for this ecosystem? Very simple, basal question. I don't need to be a horticulturist to be answering just need to think. And even if I'm thinking and I'm wrong, and I put this idea up into the ecosystem, somebody will come and say, listen, Harmeet, you are wrong. No, this is the right answer. Either which ways I'm getting a right answer. Either I'm getting the right answer by using my own logic, and even if my logic allows me to question and I have a wrong answer, somebody is going to correct me. Either which way, I walk away with a far more wisdom. And that wisdom is only going to help me and people around me to have a more sustainable and a better standard of living, which is what we want, which is all we would not be stuck in traffic today. You know, out of these 15 hours that you're out of the house, 5 hours you're half the time stuck in traffic jams. So that is part of human development. You want to go on a Sunday to a mall, but if it's going to take you 2 hours on a Sunday to get into a mall, that's again part of human development. Time is precious. Now, I could spend that time with my kids and family, or I could sit in a car and spend time with them. So all that is human development. Now, the question is, how much of it are we willing to take accountability on our own head, or how much are we willing to wish it away on somebody else's head?
Yeah, and in many cases, many people don't even see that access as well. Like, sometimes people don't have really the choice. Those who are, bought the flat, and, many people are still in different phases. Some people fight for their possession. Some people are, who have already moved into, they can't do much. And all those things are also affecting, I think, people's decision.
I agree, ma'am. Again, as I said, even if in all these years that I've been around in the industry, people who bought the house from me have never come back for 6 months to ask, what are you doing? Now, which is very good for me because nobody's coming and seeking accountability. Even though I'm doing a fantabulous job, I'm on the target, my timelines are being met. But I don't have people coming and saying what is going on. I still want to be updated. I want to be updated about the good things. So, I want to walk away. I'm going to take a Sunday off for about 2 hours, and I want to go to my developer and I want to ask, hey, you know what? You've been doing a fantabulous job. I purchased the flat 6 months back. Everything looks very hunky-dory. I want to spend that 1 hour coming to the developer's office and feel elated about my choice of, say, purchase. So give yourself that, that carrot to say that, listen, I'm feeling good about the purchase that I did, because that is creating a habit of your capability to question your own judgment and question the person that you paid the money and keeping him in checks and keeping the checks and balances on him. If you will not walk into his office for 7 months, 9 months, and then all of a sudden say, listen, I have not heard from you. You were supposed to do this. You were supposed to send me a letter. Agreed. But then there is also the part of your own responsibility to make sure that you do it. I know we are in a time where, everyone is hard pressed for time, but then it's your own hard money. If you don't take accountability for it, then who is going to do it? Sahil, you want to, Shamnamji, any more questions from your side?
No, thank you.
Okay. Sahil, you want to come in? You had a question?
Morning, sir. How are you, sir?
Very well, Sahil.
Very interactive session, sir. Lovely to be here. Good morning to all.
Pleasure. Good to have you.
Yes, sir. So I have a question. There is a development which is coming up in the heart of Lutyens Bungalow zone, and there's a developer who's bringing up a project, but the centric of that project is cleared only on the paper of getting the letter from the authority, but there are no certain compliances in place. But that project developer would like to pick up checks over on that. So what is your take on that, sir? And second point would be that, what we see the development happening inside Delhi NCR market in current region, and the way developers are going and launching projects and picking up, do you really feel that they will do justice of delivering the projects? These were the couple of questions I had.
Lovely. So, Sahil, I'll answer you the first question, which is, I don't know whether the question that you asked is more hypothetical or it's more specific that there is somebody doing something in Lutyens. So,
it's a more hypothetical question, because the developer is pretty serious, and obviously it is new, and he has done projects across in the region of NCR. Yeah.
So if he's picked up a land Does he have possession of the land? Does he have the titles? Does he have all the from what I understand, because you said Lutyens or neighboring area. So I am
Yeah, neighboring.
assuming that this
Yes.
land would have come to him from the government, right?
Yes, correct.
Okay.
Correct.
So has the transaction between him and the government happened in totality? That one needs to see that. So there is the paperwork, there is the fact that he's been given the land, he's paid whatever monies have been given, he has taken the physical possession of the land. Is this a simple plot of land, Sahil, that the development has to be done, or because there is a lot of redevelopment fundamentals coming up in that area? So if it's a redevelopment project, then I'm going to assume there are already housing units over there which are old and would have to be brought down before he can even get into any kind of shape of developing his own blueprint. Now,
Yeah.
one aspect is that. The second aspect is once he does that, then he needs to have a blueprint of his own project that he needs to bring on the table. That blueprint cannot just be an architectural blueprint. That blueprint has to be something which has to be endorsed by the authorities. So there is going to be a sanction plan by the town planners or RERA, whatever. So
right.
Or post that he's gotten the development, he's got the sanctions or the drawings approved as per the master plan or as per the development norms. Those would then go into RERA for your registration of RERA. Now, the thing that caught my attention is picking up checks at this point of time. Now, technically, from all aspects, he can't go into the market and pick up check at this point of time at all. Not pre-RERA. And from what you told me, you're not even close to pre-RERA. You said he's just got a letter, if I'm not mistaken. Am I right?
Yes.
That letter only says, listen, you participated in some kind of a public-private offer. You probably got into a tender or a L1 and you said, I'll develop this and this is my rate at the cost that I will develop, and the government has agreed to it, has given you a letter acknowledging your participation and acknowledging your win on the cost factor. Now,
yeah.
Am I right? So that is where it is. Now, if it is there,
right, sorry, yes. Yeah.
So it does not give him any fundamental capability to pick up any money on that project. And if it goes that way, needless to say, it is absolutely actually against the rules and regulations. It can be a contempt in terms of civil liabilities. And if something goes wrong, it can even come under criminal fundamental problems. So that would be my answer to that thing. The second part that you talked about, sorry, I missed it. Can if you just, the second part you talked about was the second question?
Second question was that there are a lot of developers bringing up projects across Delhi NCR, and what they were seeing is that, they are saying that they will be delivering it, but there are some kind of notion for the end clients and the investors that they have some kind of fear, because as you see that riots has happened in Gurgaon, and people really living in fear these days in this part of the town. And
so let me answer that question. Let me answer that question in a way. The riots or the social breakdown in terms of the law and order is always a passing phase, unless it's at a scale which becomes very, very humongous, which God forbid I hope doesn't happen, and we've not seen in so many years. Now, for me, that would not be a challenge in terms of a certain dip in real estate sentiments. The dip for me in real estate sentiments would happen more fundamental to the business. And about a week back, I was a speaker at one of the forums in ASSOCHAM, and I had mentioned that while there has been a lot of buoyancy and movement in real estate over the last 1.5 years, but that buoyancy has taken the market to a point where all of a sudden it's starting to become extremely unaffordable. Now, people were parking their money and I'm saying this, and I say it with a lot of justification and authority. But what I understand is a lot of the land deals are still on cash components. Now, people are parking their cash components. Okay. And I've asked this question fundamentally at all forums that please buy 3.5 lakh rupees a square yard or 4 lakh rupees a square yard, whatever is the cost of land in any area of Gurgaon, on a total white check. And then I want to test the validity of the bullishness or the buoyancy of the market. If somebody is willing to cut a 10 crore check for a plot of land in NCR, out and out, I would say, and not one, it should not be, it should be a norm that people are willing to pay in white for that product. And then I would say, yes, the understanding of the health of real estate is this. But if a lot of cash is getting parked with the idea that I want to settle my cash, not because I'm really buoyant about the real estate, then the fundamentals of evaluating the real estate would be very different from my perspective. While the market might be on the upswing because the transactions are happening at a higher rate, but it doesn't necessarily mean that going forward, real estate is going to be really doing very well. So second point is, because there's so much of bullishness and buoyancy and people are coming out, interest rates have gone up, but they're still not what they were in 2005, 6, 7. People are, and the fundamentals of the way real estate is being sold, that you pay 20% now and pay remaining. So people are borrowing or using 2 crores worth of their liquidity, whether it is their personal liquidity or they've kind of leveraged it on a credit ecosystem, but they're putting that money into purchases which could be well above 10 crores or 11 crores, which means at some point of time, if it comes to a situation where you need to make the remaining payments for 8 crores and you don't have it, there are going to be severe defaults. And the underlying factor is you're punting on the fact that I'm going to put in 2 crores, which is 20% of my capex. And I am going to, at some point in time, rotate this asset into the market and leverage my 2 crores and make money on it. So I don't need to have entire 10 crores to be playing the 10 crore market. I just need to have 20% of the money. Now, if that market goes sideways because of economic reasons, because of political reasons, or any other reason, none of us is God, we don't know what will happen in 10 months, 6 months down the road. If something goes sideways and people have invested 2 crores against the property asset valuation of 10 crores and they stop paying the remaining 8 crores, which they don't intend to pay at this point in time, what will happen is the developer who is making those houses or commercial, who needs to get that 8 crores, will be falling short of that money. And then the thing that will happen will be an impasse in the market where the development stops, the payment stops, and the credit cycle from the banks to the developer stops in terms of trying to finish the project, which means you are going to come to a situation which is going to be such an emphatic impasse in the market that will severely dent the real estate market, and capital is going to get extremely locked in the market without any kind of exit for anyone. Now, I am not saying this could happen. I am saying this is a possibility that exists the way the things are moving in the market. It might very well happen that I might turn out to be absolutely wrong in my judgment. We can all, but the possibility does definitely exist. So which means that if you are getting into the real estate market, you are looking at a serious capability of having a situation in the real estate market which existed from 2012 to 2014, which was totally, absolutely, the things were locked in. So I don't know whether you agree with me on that one, Sahil, or not. That should be my answer to that second part of your query.
Yeah, very true, very true, very right. Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Pleasure. Any more questions, ma'am, from anyone? I felt that my session should be a monologue in the first part, and the second part can be a dialogue where if people ask questions, then it becomes more interesting and more engaging to have the forum also involved in it.
Yes. So you can proceed to your next part of your topic.
So if you see what we've talked about, and as I said, real estate is such a vast subject. So there is the factor which I again mentioned, which is the macro development or the ecosystem development. Then it comes into the project development, and then it comes to the services part of it. If you get all this right, if you get your infrastructure right, you get your project right, you get your services right, the outcome is going to be absolutely nothing but profit. But if you start looking at profit to begin with, then none of this is going to come out right. But if you get all your fundamentals on the thought process and your drawing board right, whether the market does well, market doesn't do well, there is always going to be a market and an appreciation for a product and an ecosystem which is brilliantly done. And I have always said that even in your worst times, in any real estate market or any business, nothing comes to halt. It is only the ecosystem which is full of malaise and cancerous is the ecosystem which is not going to profit. Anyone who is doing a brilliant job, sure is going to be hit by the market forces, but will continue to survive and find his way around the market because he has put in the effort to develop the right company, the right process, the right system, the right product, and it can never go wrong. Now, I am on the verge of planning and doing a project in Goa myself. And I'm just putting that out. So the whole market in Goa has moved to the north of Goa. And when I scouted around, I said, you know what? 5 years from now, this is how I see North Goa. I don't want to do a real estate development because today I can make more money there, or it'll be much easier to sell in North Goa. I don't see that in 5 years, 6 years down the road, if somebody is going to be living in a project that I have done, which might be brilliantly done, but everything around it falls apart because you're just going blindly into the development over there. So I chose to actually go to quite a nicer, very nice part of South Goa, which is far more managed. And I said, I'm going to do a development which is going to take care of the ecology, is taking care of the fundamentals of design, is not putting pressure on the ecosystem. And let me do a size of a project where the turnaround time and my capability to deliver that project is super fast. I don't want to do a size of a project where I say, listen, today Nupurji buys a house from me and I'm going to end up giving her that house in 4 years. In 4 years, your fundamentals, your ecosystem, your universe could change, will change. Now, if I'm going to make you wait for 5 years to give you a house, for me, it doesn't make sense as a businessman. I mean, it can make sense to a lot of people. It can make sense to a lot of businessmen. Personally, for me, so I said, rather than doing very large projects, let me do smaller projects, smaller communities, which I can manage, which I can control, and I can turn around those projects faster, which means I can give you that project under 24 months, factoring in any kind of macro, problems, which could be rain or governmental issues. So you always, as a developer or a businessman, buffer that part that, listen, I would want to give that project in 15 months, but I want a safer side from a legal standpoint of view, take 24 months, but try to deliver that in 15 months so that you thought about a house today and you are in a house in 15 months down the road. So what I am again trying to tell on this one is all eventually boils down to your thought process in business. What is it that you want to achieve? Is it that what you want to achieve? Are you keeping in mind your customers, your brand, your product? Are you putting a sync to everything? Are you aligning everything together? Because in the real estate business, I've seen most of the people, they are looking at the development. I find it very ridiculous needless to say that yesterday I was looking at an ad where somebody saying, you want to buy a plot from me? Great, register with us. We will give you time. Which is so haughty. It is, in my opinion, a little unbecoming, unless and until you only had 10 things to sell and you had about 100 people willing to buy it, which I would understand there is a difference between the demand and supply, and you say, listen, we only have 10 and either I follow a first come first service basis, or I would like to evaluate the kind of clientele I want in my project. I understand that. But if you are doing a large project and then you said, no, you come and you register with us and we will see, and someone even went to the extent of saying, if you come right now, we will forego your stamp duty. Now, the builder can't go forego a stamp duty. The stamp duty is a government stamp duty. How can you even write that I will forego a stamp duty? You can say that, listen, we will bear the cost of your stamp duty. I can understand that. But to write in an ad to say that you will not need to pay the stamp duty is also illegal. Now, 9 out of 10 times, I can assure you, when the customer reads that I don't have to pay the 5% stamp duty, he's going to be very happy. मेरे को तो 5% का discount मिल रहा है. But you have to understand that stamp duty is to be paid. It's just that you are not paying. It is inbuilt into your cost. तो अगर आपने 10 लाख स्टैम्प ड्यूटी देना है तो 10 लाख रुपए ऑलरेडी कॉस्ट में इनबिल्ट हो गया, और वो 10 लाख वो बोलेगा मैंने दे दिया. So one has to be very, very conscious, open about the fundamentals of all that is happening. Read between the lines again. And my question is, ask as many questions as you can. The more questions you ask, so if I am a developer and I have a customer coming to me and asking me questions, I actually like that because it allows me to answer that. If I don't have some answer, then it allows me to go back to the drawing board and find the answer and come more well planned. But it also shows something to me that my buyer is putting in the effort and the time to show interest in that project. So I am going to be a little more humble and say, listen, if I get my product and my relationship right with this customer, then he's my best customer. He might be the most uncomfortable customer at this point in time, but if I satisfy him, he's actually going to be my best customer. So I think this is what I would probably today end my session at, ma'am. Taken everything into viewpoint. I mean, we've spoken a lot about many things, but I think it kind of covered a lot of stuff. And I think that is it, ma'am.
Wow.
Thank you so much.
All the aspects. You're welcome. You have covered most of the aspects of real estate, how to buy, how to sell, and when to buy, when to sell. Look into the legal aspects and look into the surroundings, the ecosystem, and everything you have covered. And it will be an eye-opener for those people who are going to buy something for their own living. And housing is one thing which is very, very necessary in these days. And prices are shooting up. What do you say about these prices? This is very mind-boggling that it has, shot up to, very high level. It was just 1 year or 2 years back, it was not so high, but now it's like touching the sky. So what do you say about that?
So, ma'am, as I said that, the cost of housing is simply, let's put it cost. The fundamental cost in India becomes the land price.
Yes.
The land prices are just going over the roof.
Yes.
And the reason the land prices are going over the roof, and as I said, and you know me, I call spade a spade, and irrespective of public forum, the fact of the matter is the land costs are going up not because all of a sudden there is this huge, interest in real estate now. A lot of people are buying land, as I said, and I'm maintaining and I'm saying this, to just park their black money. Okay. There was a black money movement in the market, glut for last 4-5 years, post 2016. That because somewhere people are finding it difficult to earn their white money. So whatever cash they had, they are trying to securitize that. And the only way possible to securitize cash in India is real estate, and that is land. Now, if the land prices are going to keep moving up, which means if I could have bought a land, let's say a 300 square yard plot for, let's say, 1 crore, today it's sitting at 3 crores. The question that needs to be asked is, what has changed in 1.5 years for that piece of property to merit sitting at 3 crores in market value rather than the 1 crore it was? Has anything brilliant or something happened in its ecosystem now? Do we have infrastructure around those areas which are not existent 3 years back, 2 years back? The answer is no. It's the same infrastructure. If anything, there is more flooding, there's more traffic jam. So what has caused the rates to go from 1 to 3 crore is just that the land prices have gone up. Right? The moment the land prices go up, it is but natural that the cost of the products that will be made on it will also go up. Right? And when these sentiments kind of kick into the market, people stop using the logic, because when you are in a bullish run, humans have a great tendency of coming out with a story which justifies the theatrics of the market. So if I say there is a cash movement, somebody can always argue, so what? It still means money. Somebody could say, listen, it's a bull run, the sentiments are in favor, people are going to keep investing. Now, my worry always is that I not only look at the now, because you're in business, you have to look at the future. In personal life, I don't look at the future, I only look at now. But in business, you have to look at the future, because your strategies and decisions that you take, which you do today, shape the next 4 years. It'll land you into a situation where you are the next 3-4 years. So if I am going to get into the market today, and I have people coming कि जो आज रेट पे जी आपको प्लॉट मिल रहा है, ये तो बस स्टील है, इससे नीचे तो कभी मिलेगा नहीं, रेट ऊपर ही बढ़ना. Now that is parrot talk meant in a bullish market. You have to hear it and discount it with extreme amount of pinch of salt. If you're buying that property with the perspective of making it your Ashiana for a long term, then whether you buy it for 1.5 crores or 2 crores doesn't matter. Because you're not buying with the ulterior idea that मैंने इसको खरीदना और मैंने 2 साल में बेचना. फिर आप कह रहे यार मैंने लिया over a period of 15 years, even if I'm buying 1 crore and I'm paying an extra cost today, at some point of time, I will leverage that out and I will be in the profit. But if you're going to buy that real estate with two mindset, one, I'm going to flip it. Second, आज मैं ले रहा हूं और ये बुलिश मार्केट है और मैं 4 साल में बाहर निकल जाऊंगा. 4 साल तो किसी ने भी नहीं देखे हुए. So if the market comes to a point where there are too many sellers in the market tomorrow, because everybody is bullish today, everybody thinks the market is going to go up and everybody is buying today, they're all buying with the idea of selling it. So the day when it comes to the selling in the market and you don't have a buyer, and you also don't have the capability to hold on to your investment because you're doing multitude of investments. अब अगर मान लीजिए मैं एक प्लॉट ले रहा हूं तो मेरी लीवरेज एक प्लॉट की है, बट अगर मैं कल को 10 प्लॉट लेके बैठ जाऊं तो मेरा कैपिटल और मेरी लिक्विडिटी मार्केट में एक पर्टिकुलर सेगमेंट में लॉक हो गई. God forbid something goes wrong in my ecosystem when it comes to finances and I want to de-risk myself, de-leverage myself and sell my assets out, and I go into the market and I don't find a buyer. I am under extreme stress at that point of time, and wherever I choke in the market at that point of time, and I say, listen, अब ये 5 करोड़ में नहीं बिक रहा, ये आप किसी तरह चलो 4.5 में बेचो, और वहां से वो मार्केट गिरनी शुरू हो जाती है. अब जब वो 4.5 पे आप आ जाओगे, तो जो बंदा आपसे खरीदने आएगा ना, वो बोलेगा ये तो 5 में बैठा हुआ था, अभी 4.5 पे आ गया, तो वो आपको ऑफर करेगा 4 करोड़. तो वहां से मार्केट गिरनी शुरू हो गई. If you have more sellers than buyers, today you have more buyers because everything looks bullish. There is really no need, because the people who are coming into the market today, a lot of them are not first time buyers. Not many of them are relocating. Many of them are buying their second, third, fourth investment. So what happens is, you have to get into the market, understand the market, look at the data points, understand what the clientele is, understand who is the customer who's buying, what is his profile, who's driving the market, to come to a very clear, logical conclusion about the state of the market. Any consultant that you will see in the market, because he's a consultant, and I don't fault him, he has to make money, he has to make his livelihood. He will simply make a very clear, nuanced statement stating it's a bull run, the economy is doing well, the market is doing well, there are enough people buying, the rates are going up. And because he carries a certain amount of credibility linked to his being a consultant, people in the market will say that, okay, because he's a big company or a big consultant, if he's saying so with a lot of authority, and he has to be right.
Wow.
So, but you have to also understand that when you listen to him, you also need to use your brain, whether it is you're being led to the slaughterhouse, whether there is a genuine bullishness, and you need to look at your own profile, your own capability, your own financial planning, your own understanding of your purchase, your own exit plan. And always assume that something can go wrong tomorrow morning. Don't wish it, but we don't know anything about life. We don't know what is on the turn tomorrow on a Monday morning. Everything might look very hunky-dory today. So you have to have that leverage in your strategy and investment that allows you the maneuverability on a Monday morning if things go south for you. That is what I would say. So in my opinion, it's not a sustainable run. You will see that glut, and I can my analysis is it's coming within the next 12 months. But that doesn't mean everywhere and all real estate is going to be down. So there are going to be pockets, as I said, if you do a fantabulous development, you do the right things, you do the right pricing, you have the right touch points, even in the worst market, somebody will come. Market will support you. You have to work harder for it, but it's not as if you can't sell it.
Well, I agree with your viewpoint. One more thing I would like to ask. I believe, it is my opinion,
yes,
that buying a land is easier, but selling the land is very hard. What do you say about that?
Ma'am, getting married is easier, maintaining a marriage is difficult. Having kids is easier. Taking care and growing the kids is difficult. Eating food is easier, maintaining your health is difficult. Same way, buying land is easy, buying an asset is easy. The moment you buy an asset, it comes with certain responsibility. You have to manage it, and you have to sell it. Now, when it comes to the selling part, when you want to dispose it off, the part is you are a seller, and your luck and kundli needs to match with the guy who wants to buy it, right?
Yes.
And that is the whole fundamental beauty about economics, which is finding the equilibrium between demand and supply. So
Perfect.
it's easy to buy. It will always be a little more difficult to sell.
Yes, that is what I'm seeing here. And most of the people, they buy it impulsively after thinking and plotting and planning and everything, exploring everything. But when they have to sell it, I'm seeing many people around me who want to sell it, but they are unable to sell it. So that is the burning point over here, rather to say in my circle, many people, they want to wind up because they are growing older. They are, they are retired and now they want to wind up their life and sell off their land or property and keep everything, dispute everything so that their children don't have to suffer.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's why I asked you this question, because this is very common problem with these people who want to wind up. And when the seller, like broker or anyone get or buyer, anyone get the hang of it, they will start, taking advantage of it. And
Ma'am,
there's a kind of
that is the nuance of business.
yes,
People are smart who are in the business on the road. They understand. See, what happens is when you sit down for business, the choice of words, the way you communicate, you think you're holding the aces up your sleeve. You're not letting out your fundamentals, but inadvertently, the choice of words and the way you put across your communication, and you know it better because you're a teacher and a guru in this forum, on a lot of forums about when you talk about it. And somebody like me who is in business, I like to pick up the commas, the full stops, the apostrophe, and the grammar, and I read in between the line because that tells me exactly what is going on in the person's brain. I'm not interested in what is being told to me. I am more interested in what he is going inside. And smart businessmen in the market know very well if a 75-year-old person is coming out in the market, he says he can, if he repeats 3 times, listen, I'm in no hurry to sell.
yes,
That means he is in a hurry to sell. He wants the deal to happen. So don't even say I'm in a hurry to sell. You say simply, you want to sell. If it's a fair price, we're open to selling. Let me know.
yes, that is so true. And I agree with your point. And yes, people are waiting to sell off their land.
Yeah.
And my belief is, validated by you that it is easy to buy a land and it is difficult to sell it off. When,
it's not easy. Yeah.
Because you become very vulnerable when you are selling. Yeah. So these things, everyone should keep in mind that you have to be street smart and take the advice of Mr. Chawla, who will definitely help you to, give you right advice and give you more inputs on whether to buy a land or property or apartment or invest in certain, housing plan or not. So it is his years of experience which is speaking over here, and he has really opened up and literally took each and every thread of the fabric of real estate and opened up and gave it to you on a silver platter or golden platter. So just gobble it up, and whenever you are going to buy that land or that property or that apartment or that house, remember his words and then take decisions. With
I appreciate that.
Yeah, with this, I would like to thank you, Mr. Chawla, and for being with us and sharing so beautifully each and every aspect of real estate buying and selling and profit and loss. And that is really much needed out here because people are really in a frenzy to buy properties, and property has gone really skyrocketing high. And with that note, I would also like to thank all our audience, established audience. Really, you have put up a beautiful questions, very pinpointing question, which help us to understand more about real estate. And I would also like to thank our Marvin team and Dr. Shabana, who has created this magical platform where we are learning and sharing knowledge. We are training people also, and we are creating a platform to make everyone aware of certain topics which are not talked about. So we always want your inputs and your feedback on any of these topics, and on real estate, of course, which is much needed and less talked about. So we will definitely would like to have your feedback on Maven group also, and on YouTube comment box also. So
thank you once again, ma'am. Nupur ma'am, thank you, Dr. Shabana, for having me over. And I hope I could give justice to your platform in terms of whatever I said. And thank you all the participants on this, the audience.